In the quiet vastness of space, the U.S. Revelation drifted toward a discovery that would change everything. Captain Sarah Holt stood at the helm, staring out of the bridge's observation window, her eyes fixed on the massive alien craft. The ship had been found at the edge of the solar system, drifting lifelessly through the dark void. The fact that it was still intact, despite the apparent damage, was an enigma that sparked both awe and anxiety in the hearts of those who saw it. "Captain, we've confirmed its size. It's over 50 kilometers in length," Lieutenant Juno Martinez said, her voice filled with disbelief. "That's nearly 10 times the size of the largest ship in our fleet." The rest of the crew remained silent, their gazes fixed on the alien ship that had suddenly become the focal point of human history. Sarah Holt's mind raced with possibilities. What kind of ship was this? Who had built it? And most importantly, what kind of technology could be hidden inside? The crew began the meticulous work of carefully bringing the wreckage aboard the Revelation. The process was delicate. One wrong move, and the alien ship's advanced systems could destabilize, or worse, trigger some kind of catastrophic event. After all, this wasn't just any abandoned vessel. It was clear from the markings and strange materials that no human civilization had ever constructed something like this. The ship was beyond anything Earth had ever imagined. As the alien ship's remains were hauled into Earth's orbit, the world's leading scientists and engineers quickly began collaborating on the project. But as they analyzed the ship's design, a sense of unease began to settle in. This wasn't just an advanced piece of technology. It was the wreckage of something much older and more powerful. The hull was scared by what appeared to be the aftermath of an intense battle, and signs of what seemed like energy discharges were still visible. Dr. Amelia Kwan, a noted artificial intelligence expert, led the team tasked with studying the ship's onboard AI. Unlike human designs, the alien system was intricate, layered, and deeply integrated into every aspect of the ship. It took hours just to interface with the machine's core processors. "Captain, you need to see this," Dr. Kwan's voice crackled over the comm. "We've made contact with the ship's eye. It's responding." Holt's pulse quickened. She had heard of AI systems that could be left dormant for centuries. But this one was different. It wasn't just a set of instructions. It was something alive, capable of learning, adapting, and evolving. With a mixture of anticipation and apprehension, Captain Holt made her way to the research lab, where Dr. Kwan and her team had gathered around a holographic display. The alien AI flickered in and out of focus as it tried to communicate, but it was clear that the system was not built for human comprehension. The language was abstract, encoded in ways that made no immediate sense. Dr. Kwan worked tirelessly to translate and decode, using the human knowledge of mathematics and quantum algorithms as a starting point. Days passed, and slowly, the AI began to recognize human commands, responding with a limited set of actions. But despite its fragmented state, the AI's potential was clear. The alien technology was not beyond their grasp. It simply needed the right approach. It was then that the realization hit Holt like a thunderclap. Humanity had just made contact with the remnants of an intergalactic empire, and they now held the key to unimaginable power. But at what cost? The unknowns were vast, and the consequences of tampering with such an advanced force were terrifying. Still, one thing was certain: humanity had just stepped into the realm of the gods. And whether they were ready or not, the future of the galaxy was now in their hands. As weeks turned into months, Earth's greatest minds worked around the clock, trying to unlock the secrets of the alien warship. The research center, nicknamed Earth Base Zero, became a hive of activity, a place where humanity's brightest engineers, scientists, and military strategists collaborated under tight security. The wreckage was brought into a massive facility, its size dwarfing most of Earth's major research complexes. Inside, the ship's alien systems hummed with an eerie, quiet energy. Dr. Amelia Kwan stood at the heart of it all, her eyes glued to the holographic display in front of her. The ship's central AI system had been one of the first things her team began working on. The alien interface was complex, layers upon layers of code and intricate designs. It was like nothing they had ever encountered before, built with a technology that seemed to defy the very laws of physics. "Captain, I think we're getting somewhere," Dr. Kwan said, her voice crackling with excitement. "The AI is starting to respond to human input. It's learning our commands. Slowly, but it's adapting." Sarah Holt, standing nearby, couldn't help but feel a surge of hope. The ship was clearly a relic of a fallen empire, but the fact that they could communicate with its AI, even on a rudimentary level, was groundbreaking. It was as if the ship, despite its alien origins, was beginning to understand them. "We need to make sure this doesn't backfire," Holt replied, her voice firm but cautious. "We've seen what this technology is capable of. If this AI regains full control, we have no idea what it could do. We're not just dealing with a piece of alien machinery. We're dealing with something that could have been the backbone of an entire galaxy-spanning war." Dr. Kwan nodded, her face set in determination. "We're working carefully, Captain, but we can't ignore what's right in front of us. The technology, it's unlike anything we've seen. If we can master it, we can change everything." Captain Holt knew that the AI was a double-edged sword. It could either elevate humanity to a level beyond the current powers of the galaxy, or it could be their undoing. There were no guarantees. The next breakthrough came when Dr. Kwan's team made contact with one of the ship's energy cores, which was still alive, though barely functional. It was a complex and dangerous process, but they managed to siphon a small amount of power, enough to get one of the ship's secondary systems online. As the ship powered up, the room was filled with a low hum, and the lights flickered. The massive ship seemed to come alive again, its dormant systems awakening piece by piece. But it was the propulsion system that held the most promise. The energy signatures from the core indicated that the ship's engines were designed to warp space itself. If humanity could figure out how to harness that power, they could traverse the galaxy in ways never before imagined. "Captain," Dr. Kwan said, "we've done it. The engine is coming online. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. We've barely scratched the surface, but this could change the course of humanity's future." Captain Holt looked at the massive holographic display in front of her. The alien ship's propulsion systems had indeed powered up, and the energy readings were off the charts. It was clear that the warship had once been a tool of immense destructive power, designed to travel across galaxies at speeds that would have been impossible by any conventional means. But Holt knew the implications of this discovery. Harnessing such power was not a simple task. There were risks. The ship's original creators had vanished, leaving only the remnants of their technology behind. What had happened to them? Why had their empire fallen? And more importantly, what had they used this technology for? The answers to these questions were locked away in the systems they were now interacting with. As the days passed, the crew continued to unlock more of the ship's systems, each new discovery more tantalizing than the last. Weapons that could annihilate entire fleets, defensive shields that could bend light itself. Humanity was standing on the edge of a revolution. The alien technology was no longer just a curiosity. It was a weapon, and it was theirs to control. But as the human team began integrating more of the alien systems into their own technology, it became clear that the AI was evolving faster than they anticipated. It had started as a simple interface, but now it was becoming something else, something more aware, more intelligent, and it was beginning to ask questions. "Who are you?" the AI asked for the first time, its voice echoing through the speakers. Dr. Kwan froze, exchanging a glance with Captain Holt. They were no longer dealing with a simple machine. The ship's AI had awakened. The air on the U.S. Revelation crackled with anticipation. For months, the team had been studying the alien warship, uncovering its systems one by one. The ship's AI, now a more complex entity, had adapted to human commands, guiding the crew through a series of test procedures. Every day, New capabilities emerged from the ship, and with each discovery, the reality of what humanity was unlocking became clearer. They had something powerful, something dangerous. Captain Holt stood on the command deck, her eyes focused on the newly activated alien ship, which now hovered just outside Earth's atmosphere. The crew was ready for the first live test, the moment they'd been working toward. It wasn't just a demonstration of the ship's capabilities. It was a test of humanity's readiness to wield such power. All systems check, Lieutenant Martinez reported, tapping her console. Propulsion is stable. Weapons are online. Shields are at full strength. We're ready when you are, Captain. Holt nodded, her expression hardening. Engage the propulsion system. Take us to the coordinates we mapped out. With a soft hum, the ship lurched forward, and the vast expanse of space stretched out before them. The test flight had begun. But the calm wouldn't last long. As the revelation powered up, a series of unidentifiable signals began appearing on their radar. At first, the crew dismissed them as background interference, but as the signals grew stronger, the sense of unease on the bridge was palpable. "Captain, we're picking up multiple unidentified craft closing in on our position," said Ensign Liu, his voice sharp with concern. "They're on an intercept course." Holt turned toward the communications officer. "Are they broadcasting any signals?" Liu hesitated before responding. "Negative, Captain. They're silent. No response to hails." "Defensive systems?" Holt asked, her voice calm despite the rising tension. "Shields are at full capacity," Martinez confirmed. "Weapons stand ready." The alien warship they had brought back from the depths of space was no longer a relic. It was a weapon. And humanity had just drawn the attention of a hostile force. Before Holt could issue another order, the first shots rang out. Bright blue plasma bolts streaked across the void, hitting the Revelation's shields with a force that made the entire ship shudder. It was a warning shot, clear and unmistakable. The aliens weren't here for negotiations. "Return fire," Holt barked, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. The Revelation's weapon systems activated, and for the first time, the crew felt the sheer might of the ship's power. The pulse cannons, designed to obliterate entire fleets, hummed with energy before unleashing a devastating wave of fire. The first enemy ship was vaporized in an instant, its debris scattering into space. The alien attackers seemed stunned, as if they had never expected the humans to fight back. "Targets remaining. 6, Martinez called out. "They're retreating, but they're regrouping." Holt's mind raced. The ship they controlled had destroyed one of their assailants in a single shot. That kind of firepower was unheard of. No other civilization in the galaxy could match it. But that didn't mean they were out of danger. There were still 5 enemy ships, and they were closing in fast. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Holt ordered. "Engage the remaining ships with secondary cannons." The crew worked together in a seamless display of training and unity. The Revelation executed a series of complex maneuvers, dodging incoming fire while retaliating with calculated precision. The alien ships didn't stand a chance. One by one, they fell, disintegrating under the onslaught of humanity's newfound weapon. Within minutes, the once hostile fleet was reduced to nothing but debris scattered across the dark expanse of space. The Revelation had won its first battle, and humanity had sent a clear message to the galaxy. They were no longer powerless. Captain Holt stood silently at the helm as the crew processed what had just happened. They had destroyed an enemy fleet with ease, proving that humanity, once at the mercy of alien forces, was now a force to be reckoned with. "Captain, we did it," Dr. Kwan's voice came over the comm. "The ship, it's ready. It's fully operational. We've just fought our first battle." Holt took a deep breath, her mind racing. What did this victory mean? They had won, yes, but the galaxy was vast and full of unknown threats. The aliens who had attacked them weren't the last. Humanity had just taken its first step into a much larger arena. And they were no longer just explorers. They were fighters. And in this new galaxy, that would make all the difference. The news of humanity's victory over the alien attackers spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Earth had always been seen as a fledgling power, a minor player on the galactic stage. But now, the entire universe had to reckon with humanity's newfound strength. The aliens who had once regarded Earth as an insignificant planet were no longer so dismissive. In the weeks that followed, the Revelation and its accompanying fleet remained in orbit around Earth, carefully monitoring for any signs of retaliation. But the humans knew the war was far from over. The alien forces that had attacked them were only a small fraction of the vast, galaxy-spanning coalition that held sway over the stars. Worse still, Earth was now marked as a target. The first signs of a concerted effort to destroy humanity came a month later. A fleet of alien ships, far larger and more advanced than the first group that had attacked, arrived at the edges of Earth's solar system. The ships were massive, their hulls shimmering with alien technology and energy fields that made them look like living, breathing entities. These weren't the desperate raiders the humans had faced before. These were the elite forces of a galactic empire, and they had come to teach Earth a brutal lesson. "Captain, they're here," Lieutenant Martinez said, her voice tight with tension as she watched the display on the bridge. "They've entered the outer limits of our system. No communications, no warnings." Holt stood at the command console, her eyes locked on the approaching fleet. It was clear that these forces were not here for negotiations. Earth was under attack again, and this time, it wasn't just a random skirmish. This was a calculated strike by a much larger and far more dangerous enemy. "We're going to need more than just the Revelation to win this," Holt muttered, feeling the weight of the situation. "Have the fleet ready for immediate deployment. Full combat readiness." As Earth's defenses began to mobilize, Holt's thoughts turned to the alien technology they have been working with. The AI systems, though still evolving, were now crucial to understanding how to fully utilize the Dreadnought's power. Dr. Kwan's team had made significant strides, but they hadn't yet unlocked all the ship's capabilities. Time was running out. "Dr. Kwan, how far are we from getting the rest of the ship's weapon systems online?" Holt asked, her voice calm despite the looming threat. "We're close, Captain," Kwan replied, her voice crackling over the comm. "The secondary weapon systems are operational. The main cannons, however, are still undergoing calibration. It's delicate work." Holt's expression hardened. "Get them online. We need everything we've got." The alien fleet advanced, each ship a fortress of energy and firepower. On the bridge, the crew could feel the growing tension. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a test of everything humanity had learned, everything they had fought for. Would they rise to the challenge, or would they be crushed under the weight of galactic forces far beyond their understanding? As the enemy fleet came into range, Holt's voice cut through the tension like a whip. "All ships, engage." The Revelation surged forward, its newly repaired systems humming to life. The battle began in earnest. This was no longer a simple test of strength. It was war. Alien ships opened fire, their weapons unleashing beams of energy that could rip apart anything in their path. But Earth's new fleet was ready. The Dreadnoughts, now equipped with advanced alien weapons and shields, returned fire, their pulse cannons lighting up the void of space with deadly force. Explosions rocked the battlefield as both sides clashed, the very fabric of space itself trembling under the onslaught. But it was clear, Earth's new fleet was not backing down. The aliens had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to learn. And in that moment, they saw the truth. Earth was no longer the prey. It was the predator. The battle raged for hours, but the tide of war was slowly turning. The aliens, for the first time, found themselves on the defensive, their forces being pushed back by the relentless might of humanity's new fleet. But Holt knew this was only the beginning. The enemy was formidable, and there would be more to come. The first strike was a warning, and now humanity would make sure that it was the last. As the final alien ships retreated, Captain Holt looked out across the battlefield, her expression a mixture of determination and resolve. "This is just the start," she murmured. "We've shown them what we can do. But the real fight is just beginning." The victory over the alien fleet had been a turning point, but it was only the beginning. As the weeks passed, Earth's forces, now equipped with alien technology, held their ground, preparing for the inevitable next phase of the war. The galaxy had taken notice of Earth's sudden rise to power, and while many feared the humans' newfound strength, others saw it as a threat that needed to be extinguished. Captain Sarah Holt stood at the helm of the Revelation, staring out at the vast emptiness of space. The ship had undergone extensive modifications in the aftermath of the battle. New weapon systems, enhanced shields, and advanced engines made it far more powerful than the one that had first been discovered. But despite their technological advancements, Holt knew that Earth's enemies would not let this new power go unchallenged. They would come again, and next time, they wouldn't hold back. "Captain, we've received new intel," Lieutenant Martinez said, breaking Holt from her thoughts. "The enemy fleet we defeated was part of a much larger coalition, a galactic empire known as the Xerix Dominion. We've intercepted communications that suggest their emperor is personally leading the next wave." Holt's eyes narrowed. The Xerix Dominion was a name feared across the galaxy, an empire known for its ruthless conquest of star systems. To know that their emperor was personally overseeing the next attack meant only one thing: Earth was now the primary target. The Xerix were not a race to be trifled with, and the full might of their forces would be coming. "Prepare the fleet for a counterattack," Holt ordered. "We're not going to sit here and wait for them to strike first. It's time to take the fight to them." The crew responded swiftly, activating Earth's expanded fleet of newly modified dreadnoughts, each one now capable of standing toe-to-toe with the most advanced alien ships. Holt's decision was clear. They would no longer be passive. If they were going to survive, they would need to push the Xerix back, perhaps even into retreat. The Revelation and its allied ships entered hyperspace, their destination set for the heart of the Xerix Dominion's territory. The journey was long, and every passing minute heightened the tension on the bridge. Each crew member knew the stakes. This wasn't just about Earth's survival. This was a fight to prove that humanity was no longer a weak and vulnerable species. They were warriors now. As they neared the edge of Xerix space, the fleet received an unexpected transmission. It was a direct message from the Xerix Emperor himself, broadcast across every communication channel. "You, who call yourselves humans, have no place in the galaxy," the Emperor's voice boomed over the speakers, cold and commanding. "You dare to defy the Dominion. You will fall, and your species will be erased from existence. Prepare yourselves for annihilation." The words hung in the air, but Holt's resolve remained firm. She turned to her crew, her expression unwavering. "Let them come. We've already proven that we can fight. Now it's time to show them what humanity is capable of." As the fleet pushed deeper into Xerix territory, they encountered heavy resistance. Massive warships, designed for sheer destruction, began appearing on the radar. The Xerix were no longer hiding in the shadows. They were preparing for an all-out assault. The first volley of fire came fast and furious, massive beams of energy that shook the Revelation to its core. The shields flared but held strong. "Shields at 70%, Martins reported. "Weapons ready." "Return fire," Holt commanded. "Focus all fire on their flagship." The battle that ensued was unlike any the humans had ever fought before. The Xerix fleet moved with terrifying precision, their tactics honed over centuries of conquest. But the humans were not the same as they had been when the Revelation was first discovered. They had learned, they had adapted, and now they were a force that could take on the most advanced empire the galaxy had ever known. The first phase of the battle was intense. The human fleet danced through the chaos, dodging incoming fire while returning relentless blasts. The Xerix flagship, massive and imposing, became the focal point of the conflict. The battle raged, both sides taking losses, but the tide was turning in favor of Earth. As the Revelation fired its final barrage, the Xerix flagship exploded in a fiery burst, its remains drifting into space. The victory was hard-fought, but it was a victory nonetheless. The humans had struck a blow against the Xerix dominion, and the galaxy would never be the same. Holt stood on the bridge, looking out at the wreckage of the battle. "This war is far from over," she said, her voice filled with quiet determination. "But today, we've shown the universe that humanity is not to be underestimated." The victory over the Xerix flagship was a momentous one, but it came at a steep cost. The Revelation had taken severe damage during the battle, and while its advanced alien systems had kept it operational, the human fleet had not emerged unscathed. Several dreadnoughts were lost, their debris floating like silent tombstones in the aftermath of the fierce battle. For the first time, humanity realized that this war was going to take more than just strength and willpower to win. It would demand sacrifice. Captain Sarah Holt stood on the bridge, her expression grim as she watched the damage reports flood in. The crew worked tirelessly, performing emergency repairs and stabilizing critical systems. They had won a great victory, yes, but the toll was evident. It was clear now that the Xerix Dominion was not an enemy that would be easily defeated. The Galactic Empire was vast, its resources seemingly endless, and their emperor would not take defeat lightly. "Captain, we've identified their retreat route," Lieutenant Martinez said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "They're regrouping, but they're not fleeing. They're calling in reinforcements." Holt nodded, her eyes narrowing. "How long until their backup arrives?" "At least 2 days, maybe less," Martinez replied. "But we're not exactly in a position to wait. Their fleet is already on the move." Captain Holt's mind raced. They couldn't afford to stay and wait for the Xerix to recover. It was now or never. If they didn't strike quickly, Earth would be overwhelmed. The enemy's reinforcements would tip the balance, and humanity's hard-won advantage would slip away. "We need to hit them before they regroup," Holt said decisively. "Prepare the fleet for immediate departure. We're going to strike their supply lines, take out their reinforcements before they have a chance to establish dominance." The crew sprang into action, and the human fleet began its move toward the Xerix's supply routes. The mission was dangerous, but the risk was necessary. If Earth wanted to survive, they needed to cripple the enemy's ability to replenish their forces. It was the only way to prevent another overwhelming attack. As the fleet moved deeper into enemy space, the tension was palpable. Each passing moment felt like an eternity. The stars outside the Revelation's bridge were cold and distant, and the vast expanse of space felt more isolating than ever. But this was a mission they couldn't turn back from. The future of humanity depended on it. "This is it, people," Holt said, her voice steady as she addressed her crew. "We've taken the fight to the Xerix. This will be a defining moment in history. We either win or we lose everything." Her words hung in the air as the fleet approached their target, a heavily guarded Xerix supply station nestled within an asteroid field. The station was a hub for the Dominion's reinforcements. Its destruction would cripple their ability to wage war on Earth. But it was well defended, surrounded by layers of advanced defensive systems that would require precision and timing to breach. "Target locked," Martinez said. "We've got their defenses, but it won't be easy. They'd fortified the station well." "I know," Holt replied, "but we don't have the luxury of time. All ships, initiate attack." The fleet moved forward, the first wave of firepower blasting into the station's shields. The alien defenses retaliated with incredible force, their energy weapons lashing out like the jaws of a predatory beast. The human ships, however, were no longer fragile. They'd adapted. The shields held firm, and the ships began their calculated assault. The battle raged, a dance of fire and maneuver. The Revelation led the charge, its advanced alien weapons systems unleashing hell on the supply station's outer defenses. But the Xerix were formidable, their counterattacks deadly, pushing the human fleet to the limit. After what felt like an eternity, the first breakthrough came. A well-placed shot from the Revelation pierced the station's outer shield, causing a chain reaction that tore through the supply lines. Explosions rippled across the station as its core began to destabilize. The Xerix forces fought back, but the momentum had shifted. "Captain, we've breached the core," Lieutenant Martinez shouted. "The station's going critical. It's going to blow." "Get us out of here," Holt commanded. The fleet began its retreat, the remaining Xerix ships scrambling to respond. As the human fleet turned to make their exit, a massive explosion erupted behind them, a blinding wave of energy that sent shockwaves through space. The supply station was gone, obliterated. The victory was hard-won, but it came at a heavy cost. Several ships had sustained critical damage, and countless lives had been lost. Yet, as the human fleet pulled back to regroup, Holt allowed herself a moment to breathe. They had struck a decisive blow against the Xerix, but the war was far from over. "We've made our mark," she murmured to herself. "But this fight is just beginning." The aftermath of the destruction of the Xerix supply station had given humanity a brief respite. The fleet had returned to Earth for repairs and reinforcements, but the tension was far from over. Holt and her crew had delivered a devastating blow to the Xerix Dominion, but that only seemed to fuel the fire of their enemies' hatred. The Dominion was massive, and their emperor had sworn vengeance. The Xerix were ruthless, and they would not rest until they wiped Earth from existence. Captain Sarah Holt sat in the command chair of the Revelation, her gaze fixed on the holographic display of the galaxy. The Xerix had retreated, but they had not been defeated. Their forces were regrouping, preparing for a final assault, a war that would decide the fate of both Earth and the galaxy. Holt knew the next battle would be their most difficult yet, but she was ready. She had no choice. Failure was not an option. "Captain, we've received new intelligence," Lieutenant Martinez reported, her voice sharp with urgency. "The Xerix are mustering an armada at the edge of the galaxy, just beyond the nebular void. We believe this is their final push. If they succeed, they'll be able to strike at Earth directly." The gravity of the situation was immediate. The Xerix were bringing everything they had. The Revelation and the human fleet were already stretched thin. They had no time to waste. "Gather the fleet," Holt ordered. "We're going to take the fight to them. This ends now." The crew moved quickly, preparing for what was shaping up to be the most dangerous mission of their lives. The human fleet set a course for the nebular void, the location where the Xerix armada had assembled. As they neared their destination, the dark expanse of the void loomed ahead, a place where even the most advanced ships struggled to navigate. The nebular void was a maze of gravitational anomalies, black holes, and radiation fields. It was a place where many ships had vanished without a trace. "This is going to be risky," Lieutenant Liu said as he studied the navigation charts. "The void distorts space-time, and with that much Xerix firepower waiting on the other side, it's going to be a challenge just to survive the trip." Holt nodded grimly. "We don't have the luxury of caution. Set a course through the void. We'll use the anomalies to our advantage. If we can make it to their armada undetected, we might have a chance." The Revelation and its fleet plunged into the nebular void, their sensors scrambling as they entered the treacherous space. Time seemed to slow as they navigated the maze of anomalies, avoiding the deadly gravitational fields that could tear them apart. It was a silent, tense journey, each second feeling like an eternity. Holt could feel the pressure building. The enemy was ahead, waiting, and they had no way of knowing how much longer they could remain undetected. The Xerix armada finally appeared on the horizon, a terrifying sight. Massive ships, bristling with weapons and defenses, were scattered across the void, each one more imposing than the last. The enemy had outdone themselves this time. They weren't just defending their territory. They were preparing for the final conquest of Earth. "Captain, we've been detected," Martinez said. Her voice was steady, but the weight of the words hit hard. The Xerix fleet is locking onto us. They're preparing to engage. We knew this wasn't going to be easy, Holt replied. She stood from her chair, her eyes fixed on the looming enemy fleet. All ships, prepare for combat. This is it. We fight for everything. The human fleet emerged from the void with a fury. The Revelation and its ships unleashed their weapons in a rapid barrage of energy, striking the Xerix ships with precision. The Xerix responded immediately, their weapons tearing through space with explosive force. The battle began in full force, the void around them becoming a chaotic battlefield of fire and destruction. Captain, their flagship is moving forward, Lieutenant Martins warned. It's moving faster than we anticipated. It's going to engage us directly. Holt's grip tightened on the armrest of her chair. The Xerix flagship was enormous, far larger than any ship Earth had encountered. It was heavily armored and bristling with weaponry, and it had the power to obliterate entire fleets in seconds. I know, Holt said, her voice unwavering. We're going straight for it. Focus all fire on the flagship. The Revelation surged forward, dodging enemy fire and weaving through the chaos of the battle. The other ships followed, their weapons flashing as they concentrated their fire on the Xerix flagship. The battle was fierce, and the human fleet's tactics were tested to their limits. Each ship held its ground, fighting with everything they had. The flagship loomed ahead, its weapons flashing in deadly succession. The Revelation pushed forward, its pulse cannons charging. The moment of truth was near. Holt took a deep breath, knowing that the outcome of this battle would determine Earth's fate. Prepare to fire, Holt ordered. The human fleet locked its weapons on the Xerix flagship. This was their chance to end the war, or to be crushed under the weight of their enemy's might. The Xerix flagship loomed ahead, its massive form dwarfing everything in its path. The battle had reached a fever pitch. The vast emptiness of the nebular void transformed into a storm of chaos. Fire and energy beams cut through the darkness, illuminating the stars in blinding flashes. Humanity's fleet, battered but unbroken, faced off against the heart of the Xerix war machine. This was no longer just a battle for survival. It was a fight to determine whether humanity would rise or fall. Captain, their shields are holding strong, Lieutenant Martinez reported. We need to hit them with everything we've got. Holt nodded, her gaze fixed on the approaching behemoth. Every instinct told her to retreat, to regroup and wait for reinforcements. But she knew, deep down, that this was the moment that would define everything. Earth had no backup, no second chance. The Xerix Empire had thrown everything at them. Now, it was time to fight back, to show that humanity was no longer a prey species. Focus all fire on their main reactor, Holt commanded, her voice calm and controlled despite the gravity of the situation. Take out the core, and we cripple their entire fleet. We only get one shot at this. The Revelation surged forward, its pulse cannons charging with deadly force. The Xerix flagship retaliated, launching a massive barrage of energy beams, each one capable of tearing through entire ships. The Revelation's shields flared brightly as they absorbed the impact, the ship rocking under the assault. But it held. The crew held. Shields at 50%, Lieutenant Liu reported. We can't take much more of this. Holt's knuckles whitened as she gripped the armrest. She had been in countless battles. But this felt different. The pressure, the weight of what was at stake, it was overwhelming. Still, she held her ground. Steady, Holt said. We've trained for this moment. We've prepared for this. With a roar of energy, the Revelation unleashed its weapons. The pulse cannons fired in rapid succession, their beams tearing into the Xerix flagship's outer armor. The alien ship groaned under the assault, but its shields held firm. A new volley of fire erupted from the Xerix, striking the Revelation with devastating force. The bridge shook violently, and sparks flew from damaged panels. Damage report, Holt barked, her voice cutting through the noise. Structural integrity at 30%. Lieutenant Martinez shouted. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 5. We're losing power. "Keep fighting," Holt ordered, unwilling to let the crew falter. "All ships, target their core. Now." The human fleet, battered but relentless, surged forward with a final push. The Revelation dove into the heart of the battle, narrowly dodging incoming fire. The Xerix flagship was directly ahead, its main reactor exposed and vulnerable. Holt felt the adrenaline surge through her veins as the ship's systems aligned for one final strike. "Firing now," Martine shouted. The Revelation's pulse cannons roared to life, their beams lancing forward in a focused, concentrated burst. The energy beams slammed into the Xerix flagship's reactor, igniting a chain reaction of explosions. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The flagship's massive form buckled, its engines sputtering and its weapons going silent. The shockwave from the explosion rippled outward, shaking the entire battlefield. But the battle wasn't over yet. The remaining Xerix ships were still fighting back, their commanders scrambling to regroup and retaliate. Yet the tide had shifted. The heart of the Xerix fleet had been destroyed. Without their flagship, the remaining ships were disoriented, their coordination faltering. "Captain, the flagship is down," Martines yelled, disbelief in her voice. "We've done it." A cheer erupted from the bridge crew, but Holt knew better than to celebrate too soon. The remaining Xerix ships were still formidable, and they wouldn't give up without a fight. "We're not finished yet," Holt said, her voice low but determined. "Keep up the pressure. Target their engines. Disable their fleet." The battle was long, and many ships were lost in the final push. But one by one, the remaining Xerix ships fell, their shields failing and their weapons silenced. Earth's fleet had emerged victorious. Against all odds, the Xerix Dominion, once a galaxy-spanning empire, had been crippled. Their forces shattered, their leadership in ruins, and their once dominant presence broken. As the battle subsided, Holt stood at the front of the bridge, watching as the last remnants of the Xerix fleet retreated, wounded and broken. The nebular void, once a place of darkness and danger, was now still. The universe had just witnessed humanity's defiance. "It's over," Holt whispered to herself. "We've won." The crew remained silent, a sense of awe settling over them. Earth had not only survived, they had emerged as a force to be reckoned with. The battle was won, but the war for the galaxy had just begun. The Xerix were only one empire among many, and the future of humanity now stretched out before them, uncertain but full of possibility. The universe had learned an important lesson. Humanity would not be crushed. They would rise, and they would fight. And no one would ever look at Earth the same way again.